Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamberwalt Weber, and today we have an extraordinary guest and filmmaker, master filmmaker, Patty Greer. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you finally.
You know, as a former Disclosure Project witness, you know, I was one of the ones that submitted the affidavit for the May 9th, 2001 press conference in Washington that made Dr. Stephen Greer a household name in UFO circles. I have to ask you the inevitable question, since Stephen has been known to visit crop circles in the UK. Are you in any way related to Dr. Stephen Greer, or are you your own Patty Greer?
I am born and raised my own Patty Greer, and Stephen and I are not related. But I am pleased to say that I mention him in my new movie because we met in the center of a crop circle. And
good.
He was holding, yeah, it was wonderful. It was in 2010. And he had this whole cluster of people that paid thousands of dollars to be there. And I come in, you know, to the center of the formation, which is where I always go with my boyfriend, and they're using the center. It's like, you know, there's like 20 of them. And so Stephen says, hello. And I said, hi, Stephen, Patty Greer. And he goes, Patty Greer. So he opens his arms, and it was really a nice way to meet in a crop circle. So we sat down and joined them. And yeah, it was pleasant. And but for me, when I'm like there with the camera, you know, I kind of want to get filming, and but it was nice because I really look forward to meeting you, but we're not related.
Well, you are one of the leading filmmakers, both in crop circles and in the UFO area. You've produced over 8 films. And I'm going to your website here, pattygreer.net, and they're beautiful photographs of crop circles, and you click on them and it goes to the one. It's a very, very beautiful website, and I really urge our viewers to go there. Could you tell us first how you got into the whole crop circle area? And then what led that to your latest film, which is sort of like, you know, if you look at Beethoven's symphonies, you know, I love the 9th, and I think is it your 9th film?
No, it's my 8th.
Oh, 8th. Well, listen. Beethoven's 8th is great, and I know you say that this is your last film, but as they say in the film business, never say never.
I said my last crop circle film.
Oh, crop circle film. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so I think
go ahead.
Because between myself and the other co-lead, there's like no question we didn't answer. And the magic of the film is so interesting that it's kind of the culmination of everything I've ever wondered about in crop circle land. For me, it's just magic. I've never researched. It wasn't like something I wanted to grow up and be. I still have had absolutely no training in filmmaking. This was like I literally fell down the rabbit hole because I was desperate to heal, of all things, from mercury poisoning. In 2004, I was super healthy, very organic. My water's all in glass bottles. You can see one behind me. And I was walking to the farmer's market, and my dentist suggested that I get these toxic silver fillings out of my teeth. And I said, yeah, you know, I've been hearing rumors. 2004. Back then, it wasn't as obvious as the vaccines and mercury fillings are today. But yeah, I have a strong feeling about it because it's like just short of our systems going around shooting people. To go around slowly poisoning people, it's just wrong. And the fact that it's still legal to put mercury in people's mouths mixed with tin, copper, I mean, just crap in people's teeth. And the white ones, you think, oh, you know, no mercury, we should see the crap in those. And we have the wisdom to do things right. That's why I have such passion. That's why I've made 8 movies, even though it's cost me a house. Even though I have no income from these movies, which is so ridiculous,
Well,
they scare people.
you can make a new affirmation as of right now.
Oh,
Right now,
yes.
this is going to lead to all kinds of manifestation. Okay? We'll make a new affirmation.
Thank you. I love that. I didn't know you were a cosmic guy.
Well,
So
you know.
no, it is time. It is time to shift the paradigm. And there's nothing in me willing to slow down. And when I see what these, what words can we use? Clones, maggots. When I see what these people are doing and sticking stuff like hacking things intentionally to get people away from my site, it just says to me, your stuff's really important. Now you be quiet. But that's not the way to talk to me. The way to talk to me is to knock at the front door, bring some flowers and say, you're really pushing my buttons. And then I'll say, take my hand, let's go in a crop circle and you will think differently. You'll probably kiss me afterward and thank me. So, you know, there's this stuck thing of people not wanting to push the button and go through the door. Like I said, I didn't go into this for learning about UFOs, but I was always celebrating the moons, the full moons, the dark moons with women and the maypole and all those things. So I've had magic in my blood since I was 7 and the Ouija board every week with my best friend till we had a scary one. And then that was it for years till I learned how to create seance with intention. So my work has been spiritually based, but it was never about the unknown. So when I got, when I decided to get the mercury out of my teeth, my dentist said $10,000 and I went, I'll get back to you. So I just called around to get a second opinion, $6,000 free nitrous. And I was like, hey, and I didn't know there was such thing as good doctor, bad doctor. So I laid back in this chair, put the nitrous on my nose. The chart said porcelain, and I woke up with a mouthful of new mercury fillings. And 6 months later, as a musician, professional harpist, 33 years, then piano and singer and songwriter, my fingertips shredded. And 12 years later, my fingers are still not fully healed. So this is a beast. And this doctor got away with it. The system is so broken that when I realized, he hands me a mirror. I'm like, oh, when are we starting? He said, we're done. I said, no, silver fillings in my mouth. And he goes, well, while you were completely unconscious on my free nitrous, you changed your mind. I'm like, give me a baseball bat. I mean, I was just like, you did not do this to me. And he really did. And he got away with it. And there wasn't a lawyer in America that would touch it. So again, 12 years ago, but I still have an open cut on this finger. So I haven't shaken hands. And I spent a fortune. That's all I can say. I tried everything but voodoo. I even did Native American combo where the shaman burned holes in my arm and put in the most toxic frog venom. That was 3 months ago. I mean, I really don't like these broken systems, and it's why I make movies.
Right. Now, so has the crop circle been able to, like, have you gone to the center of the crop circles? Has the crop circle energy facilitated your healing?
Great question. A lot of people do have healings. Mine was not about healing my hands. And I realize now as I look back on 12 years and 8 movies in 10 years, that this was planned out. And all the music of my soundtracks in my movies happens to be all that music I wrote all those years ago. How did I know to write a song that says, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see? I mean, the lyrics are all just like prepped. So there's this beautiful transitional dance that's gone on. And even though I've had to surrender like a challenging chapter of my fingertips, not hurting is a polite way to say it, I have learned things that I would have never learned being the wealthy, conceited, shallow, normal person that I was when I played music, you know, and stage and all those things. So this is just cut me to my knees to not be able to heal even with the circle makers. But they had a much more important purpose. So it was my desperation to heal that took me to the crop circles. And I didn't read about them. I had friends that had just come back from England, and I was like, hey, hug, what's up? Why do you look so different? And I was just staring at them going, you don't look the same at all. And they just smiled and said, wow, you got a good eye. Yeah, we just got back from the crop circles. And I was like, I like it. What is that? Tell me. And 6 weeks later, I was there. And that's how I began laying in crop circles. So I go, and I typically go alone. I lay right down in the center, close my eyes, and I couldn't tell you much after that. But that's how they work with me. And then when I come back, I have huge amounts of footage, and then it's almost like telepathic night, but I don't sleep well like I used to. So now when I'm awakened, like, was it last night? And I'm like, oh, toss. And I'm like, oh, come on, what's wrong? Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to listen. You know, you forget. It's like, no, I'm not, like tossing. I'm supposed to receive. So I'm right at the end of making Crop Circle Diaries, and I woke up yesterday morning realizing that every time this woman in the film says, yeah, well, the crop circles showed us the same characteristics as the UFO landing sites, I'm like, well, somebody just gifted me the most incredible UFO photos. Spaceships. Why wouldn't I use them? So I'm just like this Patty Play Pal at a food buffet of images and footage. And every time I turn, somebody sends me something of just unbelievable orbs. So the movies are voluptuous with images that are just untouchable, where it's just like, yeah, there's some surprises in this show, in this movie, that are really going to hit the public.
So this is really kind of a full immersion film then, in the sense that it's really shot from inside the crop circles. Is that what you're saying? I mean, or at least parts of it, from inside the consciousness of the crop circles as you are communing or feeling that, and that's moving you. Am I seeing that?
Well, yeah. It's a weave. The movie is a weave between myself and a very bizarre way I met Penny Kelly, who's the secret lab partner of William Levengood for the last 15 years of his life. And this scientist he had written full-length articles for 40 different advanced intelligence magazines. He's the only one that wrote 8 full articles for Nature magazine. And the interesting thing is that even the top people in the field, when I say to them, and I've really been quiet about it, but now the movie's almost done, there's an extra hard drive in other places. I mean, nobody can stop this one. I hope it spreads like wildfire, because we have to really get the truth of what's going on. So here I am in Michigan, and my life is all intuition. I still don't research crop circles. I just go lay in them. And I get my letters from the Crop Circle Connector almost every morning through June, July, August, beginning of August, and then the farmers mow out the fields. But there's 1, 2, 3 crop circles a day in the epicenter alone, which is Wiltshire, England. And this is an area where I would go every summer for typically 9 weeks. And that's a long time, long, expensive time to stay in a B&B and have a rental car, especially if you drive your car up trees and up roads you should not be driving on. And I'm just insane over there. I remember once I returned a car, I almost felt like it was like I almost brought little parts and dropped it. And there's wheat sticking out both the fenders. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm an animal when I'm over there. And I always had great feet, but you have to wear these big rubber boots because you get really muddy, or I get really muddy. Most of the croppies that come in from around the world, they'll stay at the Crop Circle Research Center when it's raining, and I'm like, new circle, I'm gone, talking to my GPS, and I'm out. So I'm in these huge boots, And, you know, sometimes you have to walk a mile or two to find the formation. And the fun part is it's a total treasure hunt. And the directions, I never did like GPS, you know, where the pilot's like talking to me and we're driving the car. I don't think many of us did. It was a very organic mission. And the people that I filmed were only the people that were in the formations day after day after day with me. So I didn't film famous people. Actually, they're probably all pretty famous because they're in most of the movies because we're always in the crop circles. But I think that now the chafe is splitting. And I think that for me, I can sniff out somebody that's not telling the truth very quickly. And this thing with the science of crop circles that's been hidden so incredibly well. We know his company was BLT, which is a very wise scientist, Burke, a very wise scientist, Levengood, and a woman with a very low voice, Nancy Talbot. And Nancy Talbot is the only one still alive. She's kept the name, but with all due respect, Levengood told her at the turn of the century, I am so done working with you, don't ever come in the lab again. So they broke off. And Levengood was not in it for the money. He was not in it for the fame. He loved science. And when he met Penny, it was because she had written a book on Kundalini. And he was looking for people with very unique characteristics to their personalities because he was starting to work with energy medicine. And here comes the word, plasma frequencies. And this is, of course, what I'm sure you are hearing a lot of because, as we say in my movie repeatedly, the old paradigm was based on coal and gas and oil. Well, the new paradigm is based on plasma. And the sooner we get there, the sooner we clean up this mess. And the amazing thing about the science that they discovered through their experiments with plasma is that through conscious manipulation, if you learn how to measure plasma, then you can actually focus on water and create it over here. So they figured out how to, not even with a 3D printer, through consciousness, using plasma, and some of their mechanisms that they worked on, they were able to create matter. So what they realized, which is again one of the punchlines of my new movie, is that plasma, everything's plasma. And plasma is conscious. And plasma communicates. And so plasma can be used to create or destroy matter. And that's what we're dealing with this, the unillumined Nazis is what I call them, with these frequencies that they're messing with. Again, all these towers they're building ultimately can be shifted to the proper frequencies of music. You know, I mean, when we take down the old ways and really move into this new world of free energy, propulsion technologies, we're going to realize that almost all those schematics have been seen in crop circles. First 4 minutes of my movie, I hit it. I give you 3 formations, and right below it is a free energy device. And you look and you go, wow, wow. And then I start spinning the crop circles, and all you see is propulsion. And then we spin it, and then we take the center and we go the opposite direction, and now you're seeing 0 point in a crop circle.
That is so brilliant. That's a real manifestation of the new paradigm inside the crop circle. And if I would say so, I think you just summarized the jump to the new paradigm in the most concise, pithy way that I've heard it, as a jump from coal and petroleum into plasma. And that's what we're feeling now. And I've never heard it expressed as economically, so bravo.
Thank you. And you know what's interesting is probably because, and excuse me for saying it, there's very few women in the field. And women are really not very respected in the field. I can't tell you how it feels to know that everybody's getting $2 grand, $3 grand, $4 grand to speak, and I'm getting what? I'm sorry. I had a standing ovation. I'm getting what? So there's this thing where I wasn't funded by Rockefeller. Oh, notch, notch, notch. I mean, there's all these things about being a speaker out with the big boys where I'm just like, hey, guys, you know, I'm putting my arm, and everybody's really warm and friendly. But when it comes to the benefits, it's like I'm really surprised because we are all one. And I'm working my tail off. But there's this thing with women where there's very few women allowed to speak.
Well, oh. Well, tell me more.
I want to step away from the camera 1 second.
Okay.
So I make UFO movies, but accidentally, I just made this movie called Women of Today.
Uh-huh.
And it's really interesting. I took my movie's gear, which is really heavy stuff, to Contact in the Desert last year when I was a speaker. And I was, you know, sitting in my booth at my table, doing my talks. It was great. All the big boys are there. All the big girls are there, or all 2 of them. And all 50 of the men. But, you know, there's just not a lot of women in the field. And I can tell you why. So I'm like looking around for my next story. And I'm like, done this, been there. So last hour, I pack up my table, I tape up the box. I'm like, whoo, what a great week. I mean, really fun event. And this young girl walks up to the table with a phone in her hand. She goes, can I show you some photos? And I said, oh God, girl, let me just like get this loaded away and then I'll give you a few minutes, but I'm really tired. So she sits down and waits for me. So I came back and she starts showing me photos on her phone. I mean, moving balls of light through her house, huge tubes of light moving in her living room. Then she tells me that she and her husband channel 3 different species and he paints what they tell him. She puts her hand over it and goes, hey, heavy, heavy. And then he hears and translates. But her phone was so full of photos that she had to pull out a second phone because she had filled the first. That's how many. And there wasn't one that was average. They were mind-boggling orb and tube of light photos, which I feature in all my films. So for me, that's exciting. Unbelievable. So finally, I look at her face. And I went, oh my God, you're hybrid, aren't you? And she said, and that was it. I was like, oh, you're why I brought the camera. And I look over to the right, and there's this drop-dead gorgeous black woman, and I can only appreciate people's beauty because sometimes you can't miss it. And I just looked at her, and I said, what do you do? And she said, I'm a psychic surgeon. And I said, how good are you? And she said, very. And I was like, And I pulled out the camera the next day and I interviewed the 2 of them. And I didn't even say she was a hybrid human like Part ET. But we did, you know, talk about the psychic surgeon. And then my best friend, Barbara Lamb, is there. So I threw her in, you know, for an interview. And then I, for the next 2 months, everywhere I went, I was like scouting for women doing advanced spiritual practice that are making a difference in the world. And so I have 33 women. And I was like, yes, finally, a non-UFO movie. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. There's Laura Eisenhower talking about turning down her ticket to Mars. And then there's Shanaz, who builds the space shuttles going to Mars for NASA and Boeing. Now they're on their 2nd incarnation of that shuttle that they've been building for years. Even though, of course, there's no Mars colonies. So anyway, then I've got Tanya Madenford, who was the co-producer of Packing for Mars. So even though I'm saying it was a non-UFO movie, there's 3 women working on Mars directly, and Barbara Lamb and I. So once I got Barbara Lamb and they're talking about, you know, I've regressed thousands of people, and a lot of people are having interactions, I figured, oh, what the heck? So I was the contactee.
That sounds like a wonderful movie, and I'm really glad that you mentioned it for our audience, and that's available on your website, Patty Greer.
On my website, Yes, pattygreer.net.
That sounds like a wonderful movie. And I know I was a speaker at the very first event down there. And I know that it's a very unusual event. It's really quite involved and multi-dimensional with all sorts of things happening from third to fifth to above. Right?
You can do anything there. Yeah. And they have thousands of people. So you're going to meet just every kind of person.
Yeah. So now I read a sort of a mini treatment that you have to understand that I toured Australia with Freddie Silva. So this is back in, as you would say, 5 years after the turn of the century. It's kind of amazing to say. I've never heard that uses before. So, and Robert, who did the amazing Crop Circle film, one of the early ones. Robert Nichols is a colleague of mine. Anyway, that's a Crop Circle film that came out in the early part of this century, that with some of the old-time croppies of the UK, people that I'm sure you would recognize, from your trips there. So that's why I really, resonate with your film. And before our interview, you had sent me kind of a mini treatment of your film, and it was like so amazing because you really, you talk about this film grounding the stories with science and psychology, and you get into the film and you begin to understand, because it's experiential. I mean, we're kind of trying to emote an experience here and doing our best, right, for the audience. But soon you will understand what it feels like to be inside one of these grand geometric formations and how truly life-changing they can be. Patty believes that the Earth, human consciousness, and ETs have been co-communicating through crop circle messages for centuries. Okay, so that is an assertion which is very interesting. Could you give us a brief dissertation on that?
When I met Penny Kelly, it was a very strange experience. And it was as strange as pretty much all the telepathic communications. It was one of those. I was speaking at an event in Michigan for a woman who saw me speak at the UFO Congress, and she said, "You have to speak at my event." So she flies me up there, and it's this event wrapped around a lake with all these psychics and healers, and they've got tents out, and it was cool, 3 days. So I spoke every day about crop circles. And at the end of the first day, I met this nice man on the couch late at night, and he said, "There's someone you need to meet. Can I take you to meet someone?" And I said, "Now?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "No, I don't know you, and it's night, and I'm tired, and I have to speak in the morning, but nice to meet you." So the next day I see him again, and he says, "There's somebody you really need to meet. I think you should go with me." So I started asking around, and people knew him, and so I went the next day. And I didn't know why. He hadn't seen my movies. He didn't see my talk, but he knew that I was the Crop Circle girl. So he takes me out about a half-hour way to this farm in the middle of nowhere, and I meet a woman, Penny Kelly. And we're sitting around this round table, the three of us, eating cherries and having a really intelligent conversation. I have no idea who she is. And it's 2 a.m, and I said, "I'm really sorry, but I got to go. I got to speak at 9, so can you drive me back? Very nice to meet you." So she says, "Well, let me give you one of my books." And I said, "Oh, great. Let me give you one of my movies." "Oh, you're right." So she hands me a book by Penny Kelly and William Levengood, which I didn't see. All I saw was consciousness and Penny Kelly and so I go through the pages, and I was like, "Oh my God, crop circle nodes. What are they doing in your book?" And she looks at him and she goes, You didn't tell her who I was? I said, who are you? She said, I was the real partner of William Levengood for the last 15 years of his life in the lab. I did all the science with him. I was that one. And I was like, I've been here 4 hours and you tell me now? She says, well, the wake is next month. Come back. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in Colorado. This is Michigan. I'll be here. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I can't believe this. So he takes me back to the hotel and I'm just going, I know you don't know me, but why did you play me? Why didn't you tell me who she was? And so he's like, I did her intuition courses. I figured you would have known. And I'm like, well, I didn't do her intuition courses. So it was a very interesting moment, so it was pretty cool. So he drops me at the front door like a gentleman. He does a loop through the parking lot, and I'm walking into the hotel, and these two women are laughing, looking at me. They were out at the front door. One was smoking a cigarette, and the other was the head psychic, big bone gal. And she's just laughing and beaming at me. And I said, hi. She goes, wow, nice. And I said, sorry. She said, there's a tall gentleman next to you. Silver hair, silver goatee. And I'm looking around like, what? And she said, he has a message. May I give it to you? And I said, oh, okay. She said, he wants you to know he orchestrated this and he's glad it worked. And I said, hold on, I'll be right back. And I ran through the parking lot and just barely caught the man. And I'm throwing my arms, jumping up and down. He stopped the car and he backed up and I'm panting. What did Levengood look like? And he said, tall, silver hair, silver goatee. Why? And I was like, ooh, he's here. He's here right now. He just walked me up to the hotel. And he told those women that he wanted me to know. And the man just went, I'm like, I'm freaking out here. Do I really need to freak out alone? He goes, this is how we roll. And I'm like, who are you? And he said, very nice to meet you. And he drives away. Come back a month later. And Penny let me stay at the farm. So the first night, I lay down in the bed and I'm just about asleep and I see him walk through the door. And now I've looked at photos of Levengood. Now I'm like, looking him up a little bit because I've obviously been pulled into this. So he had died a year before. So he walks up to the bed. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm hallucinating Levengood in a hologram like the psychic did. But it's not hallucinating, it's seeing a hologram. It's seeing spirit. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, I know who you are. And I'm not scared, even though I was like, And he said, really glad you're here. I did orchestrate this. And it was just, bam, confirmation. So the first morning, I said to Penny, there's got to be a reason I'm here. Tell me about your research. Second day, third day. I was there for a couple days. I stayed 3 weeks, Alfred. 3 weeks. And every morning I'd come to coffee and I'd have it set up on the table with my cream, and literally I had to do this. I'd put my head in my hands and I'd really grip tight and I'd say, okay, I'm ready, tell me. And she'd say, what are you doing? And I say, seriously, it actually hurts my brain when you talk. Only because I want you to just give it to me again, the full science. And it literally, it was so, I've never actually had something physically hurt to expand my thinking. It was so different than my perception. I didn't really spend my time focusing on where they come from, how they're made. For me, it was about what are they saying? Why am I here? And those answers came. But the how are they made was the really interesting piece. So I realized that Levengood brought Penny and I together in a most direct way. And the fact that he showed up twice said to me, I'm not making this up. And because my whole bit of work is so you can't touch this, like natural healers, you can't really say, see, you're healed, unless all of a sudden the skin closes and you're healed. So these subtle energy things are hard to put your finger on, but we know when we know. You know these things, and most of your audience does.
Yeah. So really it's a multidimensional guided project, and it's an extension of Levengood and Penny's work together. Is that How?
It is.
And was when did Penny become conscious of this? Or did she?
Immediately. Yeah, she was always, her thing is consciousness, his is science, and they just clicked.
No,
And
but I
he
mean,
was a
when did Penny become conscious of the fact that Levengood had brought you and she together? Immediately?
I didn't know her well enough the next day to call her and say, "Oh my God, do you know what happened last night?" So I didn't do the girl thing, but I'm sure Stan did. I'm sure he called her and said, "It worked."
Oh, good.
I mean, I feel like they're so overly conscious that it would be like, "She's in, it worked, tell Lev we're in," you know. I mean, she said that after he died for a couple of months, he caused so much havoc in her life. See, to her, it's funny. To me, it's kind of funny. And the fact that he showed up like that and brought us together, to me, is a real compliment. And I feel like Crop Circle Diaries is a culmination of hers and my and his research combined together. But I also call it a reunion of the three of us because this isn't our first time. So let's get into the heavy science while we have time. And I also do want to invite people to pattygreer.net to be looking at images of crop circles, because as we talk about the science and the images and the size and the girth and the unbelievable gorgeous nature of the interiors and the lay and the meticulousness, there's photos all over the website. There's also 7 movies you can stream or buy that are really organic, very honest movies. So what they found was that crop circles are coming out of the earth in counter-rotating vortices. They're coming out of the earth in pairs of spinning frequencies of energy. Almost every crop circle is sitting over an aquifer that's been documented. Almost every crop circle is sitting on a ley line that's been documented. And a ley line is a direct line between 2 sacred sites. So what we have here is very high spiritual energy and water. So now we've got the earth giving these messages to the water, giving these messages to humanity, and also to anything or anyone flying over is also going to see these messages. So when a group of people are sitting in a sacred site, meditating for a crop circle, we want an affirmation that our free energy device is real. That happened last time I was there, 2014. And they had done this meditation with their entire technical staff, and the very next day, there was a crop circle of the QEG. Now, it was a really interesting way to meet the team and hear that story because it broke my thoughts about human-made crop circles. Now, everybody thinks Doug and Dave made all of them in England all those years, but if they really thought about it, Doug and Dave couldn't have also made 1 in Italy, 2 in Holland, 1 in Belgium, 1 in Argentina, 2 in Brazil that same night. I mean, if it was Doug and Dave making all the crop circles in England and all those other countries, they're traveling at the speed of light, they're ET anyway. So what's this about, Doug and Dave? You know? But again, like Levengood, they find some little piece, the media, and then they fly with it, and most of the world goes, oh yeah, you know. So they didn't ask any more questions, which just blows my mind. So Levengood and Penny realized through many experiments the crop circles are coming out of the earth in these spinning little tornadoes of frequencies. When I met Stephen Greer in the middle of a crop circle in 2010, he was holding these 2 compasses that were pointing north in opposite directions, which says to me, Levengood's hypothesis is true because they're going in opposite directions. When I was in the middle of that crop circle and you realize that we still got counter-rotating vortices after the formation went down a day ago. That's a pretty powerful spin. So if you've got one spinning, it will throw matter around, but if you've got two spinning in opposite directions, it's going to do what it's told. If it had the information to set those down that way and set that acre down that way, I mean, that's where the magic is like, how do they know to lay out the pattern? So what it is when I went in that crop circle in 2014 with a whole crew to film, I took Sasha Stone from New Earth Nation into his first crop circle. I was so excited. The picture was stunning. It was such a great formation. And as soon as I walk in with the camera crew, I was like, oh my God, I feel nothing. I have no chills, no goosebumps, no tingles. Crap, this is a human-made crop circle. Like I'm talking to myself.
Right.
You know, just like, oh man, bringing Sasha in, and it's, how am I going to film him in a human-made, you know, so we get in the crop circle, and Sasha and I are on camera, and I'm like, well, there's a sacred site up there that we can see, and there's a hill fort over there, so we're on a ley line. We're definitely over the aquifer because we're in southern England, which is the largest salt aquifer in the world. It's the epicenter because it's got the large aquifer, and it has more sacred sites per square mile than anywhere else on Earth, between Stonehenge and the Avebury Stone Circle, which is in the middle, and Glastonbury off to the west. You've got the major ley lines of Europe, the Michael and Mary lines running right through the Avebury Stone Circle, which also has 3 underground streams. So you've got this huge energy field right there in Avebury, which is the epicenter, drawing all these crop circles year after year. On an average year, we documented about 150, 75 were in Wiltshire alone, 40 square miles. 75 per summer is a lot of crop circles. Yeah, impressive. So what I learned when Sasha and I got to the back of the formation, there's these 5 women watching us film, very nice, very polite, very comfortable in the center of the crop circle. And finally, Sasha said, no, gosh, I got to say, it feels like a human-made crop circle. And I said, I'm sorry to say, I think it is too, but it sure is beautiful. And then we shut the cameras off, and I said to the women, do you have any feeling about this crop circle? And they were like, heck yeah, we do. So I said, do you mind going on camera? So we lit the cameras up. And the older woman said, we are the quantum energy generator team. I don't mean older, she's my age, and she's beautiful. But she was like the mom of Hope Girl. And so she said, we have been working on this crop circle, this free energy device called the Quantum Energy Generator, QEG. And we were with our technical team yesterday in the Avebury Stone Circle praying for a confirmation. She holds up a photo of the device, and she holds up an air photo of the crop circle from the air. And I mean, so similar, it was mind-boggling. And in that moment I went, human crop circle, how did the earth, of course, she's always listening. So what we have here, even though I would have thought in the past, human-made crop circle, pooey. Well, guess what? This was, we've got counter-rotating vortices coming out of the earth. We've got these people sitting here going, oh, you know, like praying. And the earth is hearing all this because these people are sitting in a sacred site, praying heavily, doing something to help humanity. I'm just getting chills down my arms, just remembering the moment going, oh my God, human crop circles can be real. So all of a sudden there's this whole other element of human consciousness spun up in these counter-rotating frequencies. Now the crop circles, when I walk in and it's like, instantly, I mean, goosebumps, hair standing up, hair on the back of my neck, which I don't even know I have, but I can feel it. And this is like, you know, you just figure you just look like like you stuck your finger in a socket. It's so buzzy. The electromagnetic field is, those I think are the ones that have the ET frequencies. So what Penny and Levengood concluded is that when we see balls of light, which I have filmed incredible balls of light with the door open where the beings come out, what we have is in those balls of light that people see over the crop circles is that's a spinning ball of plasma at the base of a vortex. In that vortex are all these different frequencies with distinct boundary conditions. So they're always coming out of the earth. They always have earth energy, which I'm so sorry, Mother, that I didn't give you credit sooner. Sometimes it adds the human consciousness element like that one, like so many. Like my first movie, Crop Circle Update, anybody listening? Question mark. No, it's called The Wake Up Call, anybody listening. But I mean, that's the whole thing. Nobody's listening. These messages have been profound for hundreds of years. And because they're all fake and these two old guys made them, people stopped caring. So all of a sudden, now that the science is about to resurface, sorry, paid trolls, we're going to realize that the seeds inside crop circles can grow 30 to 400% more food with up to 75% more nutrition per plant. And that's why they debunked, created a lie and a rumor about William Levengood that spread like wildfire. And the smartest people in England, I should say some of the people that appear to be very wise to me in England in the research areas, have said to me, oh, William Levengood, he was proved to be a liar years ago. Tut, tut, on with you, you know, and I'm like, get your head out of the sand. This was a lie, like so many. I'm sorry, did Tesla really like, you know, I mean, many of the great people, like all the doctors that are going missing now, a lot of the wise people, they just pay people to move them out of the way. Levengood was one of them.
That is an awesome story. That is really an awesome story and an awesome scientific discovery. Now, where did the meme come about, or how do the extraterrestrials, because they say, oh, they're the crop circle makers and they're the Arcturians or they're the Syrians, or how did those memes come into being, and how did all those messages, you know, beware of false promises and all the beautiful, you know, designs, which are sort of a, you know, kind of a fourth, fifth density designs, how do those come into being?
Well, I don't ever name a planet where I think they're coming from that are making the circles, because now I realize it's our planet. It's the mother. It's the earth. And if we, you know, and again, this is why I was like, no, she's not really yelling. Stop fracking me. Stop sucking my blood. She's not really yelling. Oh my God, they're about to do 9/11. I mean, the warnings. How about this one? Here's one of my most amazing examples. 2009, all of a sudden, it was not binary codes. It was not, it wasn't sacred geometry. It was pictograms. Picture, 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 picture. It was that gorgeous dragonfly. Do you remember the dragonfly with the wings, with the veins? And then there was the squid that was 1,500 feet long. And there was the thunderbird and the hummingbird and the sparrows. Do you remember the rising phoenix with the flames coming out her tail? 2009, birds, fish, bugs, the scarab, the orthoceras, oldest sea creature, the scarab, oldest beetle, and the fish, is the orthoceras. The bird, I'm not sure what's the oldest bird, but they certainly had amazing ones. So the whole summer was that. And 8 months later, the BP oil spill happened and murdered millions of them. Birds, fish, bugs. And I felt a correlation.
What an insight. What amazing. That is awesome.
Well, here's another one, which follows it in the movie, Crop Circle Diaries, my new one. You started to state the message of the alien face and the disc. It was a phenomenal crop circle. It was an alien face that looked like a gray. There were 3 spaceships over here with little lids on, little domes, and then this huge disc off to the side. And the disc looked like one of those old piano records, you know, with the holes in it. But it was a binary code, 0s and 1s. that were deciphered as an ASCII code that was into words, a flawless message. And it was, before we say the message clearly, right after 9/11. Again, turn of the century, right after 9/11.
Right after 9/11. Okay, now.
We had the alien face. Wait.
Yeah,
we had the alien face.
Sorry.
Yeah, and the disc. And we also, the year before, had the Chill Bolton message, which was this message we sent out into space, and it came back in a crop circle. Remember that one? With distinct differences. So we had these two crop circles, 8 miles apart, 1 year apart, both of them in binary code that was read very clearly, very important messages. And both of them were in a field with a telecommunication tower off to the side. Like, it's not arbitrary, drop the field. They wanted these messages to get out. And the message after 9/11 was this: beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. Believe there is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing.
Right. That was always and I must tell you, as a crop circle follower, I'm not an expert like yourself, and I've sort of followed the community over the years, and especially the ones that intersected with the main, the 9/11 and all of that. There was a continual debate, and I'm loving to hear your answer on this. There was a continual debate, that's the NSA with their satellites, okay? In other words, that those crop circles are created from, one of the theories, from satellites up there or some device, but it was, quote, the national security state. There goes my dog, 7 barking, which means that dualistic energies have just entered the room. Okay, but I want to persist. But I want to persist with this question because I know that they're going to be either trolls or people out there. They're going to say, "But what if?" And even Freddie Silva would say, "No, that's a fake one. That's a fake one." So there was like a hall of mirrors. Oh no, the NSA created that one. The Department of Defense created that one. The Ministry of Defense created that one. How could you go into these crop circles and discern which were authentic Gaian, let's call them Gaian crop circles on the one hand.
Very easy.
On the other hand, some artifice of the national security state, the war powers, the artificial intelligence, the it out there. Okay, so back over to you on that one.
When you go in a crop circle, if you're hypersensitive like I am, you can just look at your arm and you can feel it. Okay. My boyfriend, the last man that I took to the crop circles 2 years in a row, he watched me make movie number 5, came back to America like this. Moved out when I went to see my kids, didn't say a word. He was so blown away that I don't make this stuff up. And he left me speechless, and he was like a real man. So it's like, this stuff is not for wimps. This stuff is very, very heavy when you're watching it happen. So there is an element of the military, of course. And when I was trying to film Patricia Corey in a crop circle, absolutely beautiful day, 2:30 in the afternoon, just her and I and my dear friend that hauls my gear for me. We're sitting there ready to film, and I had done a 360 with the camera of the formation. It was just beautiful, perfect day. And she had told me about this creepy couple that weren't human, and that whenever they come up behind her, she can feel everyone, but she can't even feel them. And I was like, yeah, I saw them yesterday in that formation, but they were here. We won't see them again. So it was interesting she mentioned them because she said, super creepy, not human at all. And so she went over and meditated. I'm setting up the gear. I do the 360, and I'm ready to give her the signal, let's film. And all of a sudden I hear crunch, crunch, and I look behind me, and it's that couple. And they're walking through the field. They weren't there a minute ago. And I was like, oh, my God, what's happening? And there was some little form walking behind them that was like all hunched over and short. And I'm just like, just spun the camera. And he's like, hey, Daddy, how are you? And I'm zooming in like, are you going to dissipate? You know,
Yeah.
they were fighting. But it was really interesting that happened. And as soon as they got into the woods, the first helicopter came over. And she had come into the circle, and we were kind of set up. And it was just, people filming for postcards or calendars, whatever. And they took off. But then the military helicopter showed up. And it circled over us at about 40, 50 feet above our head. I mean, my hair was like a bird's nest in knots. And they circled us for at least 20 minutes. It was rude. It was intentional. They were trying to scare us out of the formation. And so yeah, they don't want us knowing what's going on. And their problem is that they can't stop it, they can't control it, and they can't create it. So the military is trying to do different methods, and I don't know specifically what they do, but I do know that in the movie, when Penny talks about these marvelous different levels of distinct boundary conditions, she says that sometimes we even find microwave energies which kill the plant. She said, but we can tell. And the plant's made by humans like a Doug and Dave. She says, Levengood didn't even waste his time on those, because all the plants where they're bent, they're broken. They're not phenomenal or atypical, which we will go into next. They're just broken. And the plant is dying, which is different than in a real crop circle. The plant is bent in the most incredible way, and then they continue to live. So there's two very distinct changes. When you walk in a crop circle, if you're not sensitive, you won't feel it anyway. But most of the guys that go in are immediately down, digging through the wheat to see if they're broken or expanded nodes. And a node is when the plant is growing, every 4 or 5 inches, it grows a little support. So these supports are called nodes. Plants, which I didn't know before the movie was made, are actually made of cellulose, and cellulose is plastic. All plants are plastic. And they have liquid inside, a water or a liquid of some kind that gives them life and keeps them alive. So what happens in the crop circles, other than the possibly military microwave ones where, yeah, they can probably lay it down, but who wants to walk in that later? And it's probably nothing like the incredible sacred frequencies, of course, of a real crop circle. So that's my answer to that. And I have filmed the military helicopters a few times. We couldn't get them to leave. And after 15 minutes, I did something very stupid, like I was in high school. I just lost it, did a back bend, gave them a double birdie, and Patricia's like, why did you give them that gift for their locker room? I can't stand it, She was like, get the frick out of here. So finally my brain kicked in, and I turned my camera on them, and I did 3 loops, and I was like, oh, this is good footage. I mean, I could just about see his pimple, and then they flew away. So I finally got rid of them. Like, why didn't I think of that a long time ago? I will next time. So I went to look at the footage. I was like, wow, zoom in, close up. They blanked it, and then it came in when they were over there leaving. That was interesting.
Very, very interesting. Well, I can see how, as you were saying, if I mean, this is such, for my mind is kind of going through all sorts of transformational cycles right now, because somehow where I had the mental image that crop circles came from up there, not from Mother Earth. So this is like turning my whole world upside down, literally. Could you tell us more about that phenomenon? I mean, that it's just, we're being turned upside down, and it's from the earth and all of that. Kind of walk us through our changes here.
I want to walk you through the changes of the wheat or the barley or the corn, because this is where it gets really heavy. We know the mother is sending up the messages. We know she's predetermined the message with humans meditating, or humans in desperate need, or ETs that need a star map because they got a fleet flying over and they need to know it goes that way, not this way. So they lay down some star map or something. But there's all these different languaging that we have found and deciphered to be, that's ET, that's Earth, that's human. And the human ones are only because we meet the people that said, yeah, we were the ones, and it's happened. Of course, in my movie, I have an unbelievable story about remembering where I was taken. And the next day, there was a crop circle of it in England. So that's at like an hour in the movie. And when I showed it to a friend today, she just started screaming on Skype, oh my God! I say, yeah, my kids have no idea who their mother is. No idea.
So
what I've been through.
So how do you think, or has the crop circle told you, or how do you think it's going to happen that we're finally going to move into this area where Mother Earth is going to be allowed to, and humans are going to return to understanding how to work with the being that we're part of and that we're on? I mean, and that your film shows is there. I mean, I think that's what you're telling us.
Well, I don't know how we're going to get there. All I know is I'm doing my little piece. There's a lot of people doing their little piece. But I think that learning to listen, just being a human, is a very, very big challenge. And so now when we start to learn to listen to something that's a visual message, a lot of people read books. Well, why don't you read The Planet? And all these billionaires that are throwing all their money with Steve Hawking's out into space, well, why don't you just look around the corner at the farm field that's got a crop circle telling you what you're looking for, Chumpenheimer, with all the money? But it's a bunch of guys with their arms around each other spending billions to go up into space, when meanwhile the women are building the shuttles. Sorry, but I think we're in a really funny place. And Laura Eisenhower is one of the amazing women really bringing back the divine feminine. And I think it's why you're seeing me be so passionate. I never expected to have to work this hard to be heard with the movies, but I don't think there's ever been a more important time to start listening. And listening is something that women do maybe better than men. Men can go hunt better than women, maybe, but there's something about being a listener. And as we learn to listen better, then we can go into that intuitive piece and then that telepathic piece. And when we can quiet ourselves enough to move into the telepathic piece, that's when we start looking into mandala frequencies like all the Buddhists, or crop circle messages like all the croppies, or deep ancient readings. Everybody finds their thing. But here we have this huge gift, this created by the earth, by the water, by humans, by ETs, by other dimensional beings. And the messages are gifts for all of us too. So as the mother is blazing up these frequencies of spinning vortices of really specific information, waiting to be met with the frequencies of human consciousness, when it gets through the water and through the earth, the water also gets the message, which then goes out to all the water. So I see the messages as this huge co-creation of not always all of us, but always the earth and always the water, because she has to send it through an aquifer. And sometimes them, sometimes us. So it's this really interesting dance of co-communication. But once that circle is down in the field, it's for everyone. So everything flying over, everyone in an airplane, everyone in a spaceship, every orb, anything moving through space is going to see that message. So they're like sticky notes left in the field from humans. And those of us that go in, when you can see that they are not broken wheat, when you look at the bend and you see that something exploded this node, Before it bent, it grew this big bubble, and some of them actually have a burn mark, and it blew out a hole. So what could cause that? Now, this is where we get into the interesting part of the science. Something caused the water in the plant to boil. So what you have is boiling water inside a cellulose stalk, and they're all instructed through plasma frequencies, because plasma is conscious, plasma communicates, that it told this acreage of wheat to go that way, to go this way, to go that way, and then you've got the pattern. So what we have is this interaction of all these different energies and frequencies telling the plasma what to do. So here's a most amazing thing that happened, was that when I made my first movie, I was given permission to use the Oliver's Castle footage, the famous footage where two balls of light lay a crop circle down in seconds. You've seen it, of course.
Possibly. I'm not an expert. I've just seen things over the years.
Balls of light lay a crop circle down.
Yeah.
You've seen
I've
it?
seen that. Yeah.
So I bring the footage home, and Colin Andrews, very famous, all these awards, told the world it's fake, go back to sleep. So everybody did. And I bring it home. I didn't know his work. I didn't know it was fake. So I did this filming like completely telepathic after I had my 2007 contact adventure in a crop circle. I started making movies. I mean, just off the wall, just started interviewing people. I hired a crew and interviewed everybody that I played with in the crop circles all summer long that were there day after day after day. I just invited them all for a 1 or 2 day shoot. And I came home with all this footage and hired some kid on Craigslist and made movie 1. So I lay in this amazing footage at the end of movie 1 where the balls of light are laying the crop circle down in a second. I was like, wow, that's incredible. Great way to end the movie. How long is the movie? Oh, 77 minutes, my favorite number. Yay, we're done. I said, hit the gear off to the editor. Let's go out on the deck, take a break, breathe, and come back in and watch it like we've never seen it before and see if it's done. So we turned the gear off. We started to go outside, and I looked over my shoulder, and I said, oh, there's a blue orb on the monitor. And he said, can't be. That monitor's unplugged from the wall. And I said, look. And we both went, ooh, there's a blue orb on the monitor. It's unplugged. So all of a sudden, I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and the hair went up on my arms, and I got goosebumps and tingles. And he goes, you look weird. Guy hardly knew me, and he goes, you look weird. And I'm starting to shape shift. I'm feeling it like, oh, I feel weird. And I said, turn the gear back on. He said, I thought we were, no, turn the gear back on now, please. Okay, so he sits down, and I'm like starting to shake and the goosebumps, and I was like, there's something going on in that footage. Let's look at it. So he rewinds it, and I said, reverse it. So he reversed it, and he said, why? And I said, I don't know, just do it. Slow it down. How slow? And I said, I don't know, 30%. Ooh, why did I say that? So he slowed it down, 30%, and reversed it, and we're both watching, and I said, stop. Oh, my God, what is that? And between the two balls of light, in the Oliver's Castle footage, there is this band of communication, black, white, white, black, black, white. It is a binary code without a doubt. So I find this communication. I'm screaming. Now the movie takes on a whole new thing. I think I just discovered something huge. Okay, it's 8 years later. Not one famous crop circle friggin' researcher will say to me, wow, thanks for finding that. No, nothing. Instead, I stick it in movie 4 in the first 5 minutes, 3 times. In your face, 3 times this communication. I mean, large as life. Those balls communicated. But I'm Patty Greer, and my movies are being hidden by the distributors, so, you know, I am William. You're not a guy. You don't have a PhD. You don't have all these initials behind your name. You're not, you know, whatever. Nice to meet you. So I show it to Penny Kelly. Who knows? I didn't tell her what it was. I said, look at this screenshot of this. She says, wow, that's 2 balls of plasma communicating. What a great moment. How did you catch that? Where's that from? And I said, Oliver's Castle. No way. And I said, yeah, That's in the original footage that I found, Oliver's Castle. So in the film, she just nails it. She says, not only does she say it's a direct communication between the two balls of light, she said, this is how they do it. It's what I said all along, but I wasn't, a master with all these initials. So she says on camera, they told each other what to do. And then they laid the crop circle down. So interestingly enough, I'm so blown away to have this in the movie. I had a Native American walk up to me a few months ago and say, Patty Greer, I've got the original Oliver's Castle footage and I'm going to give it to you. I'm like, no way. So I go to his place in Sedona and he gives it to me along with some of the original Billy Meyer photos and the negatives. I'm just like, Christmas. So in the movie, when Penny says, yeah, well, we did these things at UFO sites. Yesterday I said, let's grab those UFO photos. They're so great over somebody's hot tub. I mean, I've never even seen them. Just clear as day spaceships. So, when we are not trying to be rich and famous because we're whatever, got something stuck up our nose, the data comes. And the thing that Penny Kelly does with me in the movie is I'm like woo-woo la-la girl because I do everything with telepathy. I don't own a TV anymore. I don't like going to noisy restaurants and bars. I have a fox instead of a dog or a cat.
A fox?
And I do. I'm just looking at the door to see if she's here. Yeah, I actually thought you might meet her.
Oh.
I've had foxes for 40 years. No matter where I go, they find me. And
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, fox whisperer. So this science thing is so incredible because when you go in a crop circle and you can see they're all broken and they're bent, when you go in a crop circle and see they're not broken, then you start to see these elongated nodes that you just can't fake. And that's what Levengood was really focused on, was these expulsion cavities, these elongated nodes, these actual biophysical, evidential pieces of wheat, barley, corn, oats that absolutely could not have been done by man.
And the great discovery is that they're done by Earth, by Mother Earth, by Gaia, or however people conceive of that being or celestial body or concept, wherever they're coming from. And so one of the issues that, not issues, but areas that we touched on in our conversation prior to the part of the interview, by conversation, I mean just kind of back and forth, was the issue of how this all ties into the 25,800 year plus or minus cycle that we just completed, the Mayan cycle on December 21st, 2012, or it turns out that it's about the same length as other cosmic cycles that are about that length. Yugas from the Eastern tradition, for example, according to that tradition, we're in the Kali Yuga now, which is 1 part virtue, 3 parts sin, and there's some estimates that it ends in 2025, which is about coterminous with 2012. I mean, when you're dealing with those large things and, the science and dealing with the inexactitudes. And that as you begin to look at what's behind what they call dimensional ascension, that is the planet actually itself, Gaia itself, quote, going into shifts of density, and that might happen coterminous with these cycles, such as in the Western tradition is called the Great Year, and in the Eastern is called the end of the Yuga. In other words, we're going from the Kali Yuga now into the Satya Yuga, which is the Bronze Age. So it just strikes me that there's a convergence here that may be happening, because when I began to explore your work online and looking at what you sent me, it struck me that the languaging that you were using about crop circles was also the languaging of the process of teleporting or going into fractal dimensional, going from a density that's perhaps dualistic to going to a density that's more love-based, which is the cyclical transformation that we're going through now. So that I'm just looking at the larger cycles, and that I know that historically there have been crop circles, but now we're at a particular, portal, which comes up, some people say once every cycle, 20, other sources, like there's an interdimensional source called the Law of One, which is an interdimensional channeling that says, oh, it's once every 3 cycles, once every 75,000 years. So that's 3 cycles. So who knows if that is. So I'm just commenting that there was, for me, a congruency between the process that you saw and the process that they're talking about that happens in these larger cycles, as there is this moving toward from a duality-based consciousness more into a love or unity consciousness base. We are one. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I think that's a beautiful way to look at the ascension. And there's an awful lot of crop circles that have certainly spoken that language. And I think every belief or lifestyle, if they looked at 100 crop circles, would find a few they could relate to that speak to their historic understandings. The crop circles, in my opinion, are just a series of symbols, and symbols are compressed files, such as when you look at the shape of a pyramid, your mind goes to all these places. It says so much. With crop circles, there's usually a circle in a square, which is some kind of a consistent sacred geometry, which does something to the mind. When we look at mandalas of sacred geometry, which many crop circles are exposing sacred geometry, you've got a center dot and then expands out consistently in all directions, the same. Whatever's over here is over there. And so the mind is just this, because it's consistent. It's like a massage for the brain. So a lot of the crop circles are just that. They're just a mandala for the heart and the mind to go, But the thing is, we've got to get people to start looking at them. And that's where the line has been drawn. When you can hire people that are willing to live in their ego, make money, be on TV, be the top speaker, get the awards, keep being the top of this, top of that, as long as you're willing to lie and sell your soul. This is what's happened to ufology, government, religion. I mean, we know that this is the whole breakdown of everything. So if we can start finding the new organic leaders, and I'm sorry to say, I'm one. This isn't because I did all this research or I'm so smart. I gave up my friggin' life because I lost the use of my fingertips. And in that surrender, instead of jumping off a cliff and going, heck with this, I said, okay, what else can I do? Oh, a brain. I haven't used that for a while. And so all of a sudden, it's like a whole new place to live rather than being this musician that was all this. Now it's starting to see the world. But as I realized that the dental system is broken and the legal system is broken, and then my bankster at a huge bank stole 40 grand and got away with it in 2008, I'm just like, wait a minute. Why is everybody stealing? Why is everybody so stupid and dishonest? And why is this all supported? Now we've got a guy running for president asking people to fist fight in the crowd, and he will cover your legal and medical bills. I'm just like, what happened to us? So when I look at the science of Levengood, the purpose of it wasn't just to waste his life in the lab, but his punchline was, crop circle seeds are producing 30 to 400% more food with up to 70% more nutrition. When they experimented with the machine that I show in Crop Circle Diaries called the CDP, which is charge, density, particles. What we have in the CDP is we stuck the seeds, they stuck the seeds, on an aluminum plate and hit them with these frequencies at 30%. How funny, it's 30% again, but I saw it in the photo in my movie. There's that 30. They hit the seeds because what they were trying to do, like Ralph Ring, re-engineering the spacecraft, was they were trying to re-engineer crop circle frequencies. If crop circle seeds are going to do that, how can we do this for the world? And the funniest thing was that at the wake, it was all crappies, except he had this fat family cousin who had a fat wife and fat kids. And I only say it to be mean because I said, oh, how nice, the only family that showed up. What do you do? And he said, I'm a lobbyist for the agriculture department. And I was like, everybody else is a crappie. So the fat family are, you know, helping Monsanto do their dusting. So here we have this brilliant science where we know that we can enhance the food supply. And when they started hitting it with the CDP charges, they found that those seeds could produce that same amount in dry, hot, terrible conditions, which of course is Africa and all these other places. What we have here is a friggin' miracle. And what did they do to debunk this guy? This man, William Levengood, did the entire college prep work to get his PhD. He did the entire schooling to establish a PhD for his career. When he got to the Council of Three, where they would decide, you know, if you were going to pass or not, there were three people, you know, that he had met, and he did his dissertation. When he came back for the final dissertation, one of the people had left and was replaced by a very questionable person. That questionable person hated Levengood. And what he did was, he said, and he was in a competing field of science, he had a project that he had been working on for a very long time, and he couldn't figure out the math. He was just trying to figure out something about plants and how they grow, and he couldn't do it. So he said to Levengood in front of these other two people, here's your challenge. This is what you're going to do. You're going to figure this out, or you don't get your PhD. So Levengood takes it on. Penny said he lost 30 pounds. He didn't sleep for months. He said, I'm not good at math. This is crazy. And all of a sudden, he threw in all these variables, and he figured it out. So he goes back to the Council of Three with his answer. And the guy was so infuriated. Not only did Levengood figure it out, but now Levengood was going to get the credit that this guy wanted for himself. So he really flipped out, and he knew that Levengood had a speech impediment if you could get him upset enough. So he got in his face, and he started yelling, and he got Levengood really upset. And in front of the Council of Three, which were the people that decide if you pass or not, Lefty couldn't talk. And he started stuttering. And the guy was in his face making sure that he couldn't talk. And then he said, if you can't talk, you're not going to get your PhD. I can't believe the other two people would sit there, but this is the story. And I had to put it in the movie because all these people think Levengood was a liar because he pretended he was a PhD. He didn't pretend anything. So here's the end of the story. He walks out. He couldn't talk. He absolutely was overwhelmed by the man's intense rudeness and rage. So Levengood leaves, and he never came back. He's like, screw it. I've got the education. I know the science. I know the work. I'm sure that I can get a job. So he walked away from it. And he was hired by all these major universities, Michigan State. They all just praised his work. I mean, he was really, really well acknowledged. He had written all these papers in scientific journals, 40 different journals he had written in. And so the punchline at the end was that the Academy of Science decided they wanted to feature him on his discovery about glass. And so they invited him to come and speak. And at the bottom of the agreement, it said you have to have a PhD. And so he was just, oh, man, that was the only time it really hurt. So he wrote them back and he said, I'm sorry, but I walked out. I had a problem with one of the people and I didn't get my initials, but I did do the education and I obviously know the data. So the Science Society wrote him back and they said, we know the education you've had, and that's what makes a doctor. You either have to have the initials or the education and the scientific background, of which you obviously have. We do consider you a doctor.
Oh,
so
good.
for the rest of his life.
Oh, that's a good story.
It's a huge good story.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to tell us some other tragedy.
No, the man was literally a PhD, but he had a troll brought in to try and debunk his work because...
It's called PhD, not ABD, it's called PhD AB, one guy on the trio. No, I mean, usually people put PhD ABD, PhD all but dissertation. That's the standard that you put now.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people don't sweat it anymore. They're different standards. You put PhD ABD, and then there's a. But it sounds like he went beyond. He's more than PhD ABD. He's PhD with dissertation, with a crooked panelist. But I mean, you know, what are you going to do?
I'm telling you, the people in the top of the field have said right to me, he was a phony. He lied about being a doctor. And I'm just like, you have no idea what you're saying. Oh, he was just about the fame and the money. Okay, whatever. So I end the movie. It's an hour 15. I just couldn't do any less. And now the credits are running. And then you think the movie's over, and all of a sudden, I start playing the piano again. By the way, I played a lot of piano in my new movie. I just stuck on some latex-free vinyl gloves and coconut oil. Played the hell out of the soundtrack. So
that is wonderful.
It's pretty cute. So all of a sudden at the end, you hear the piano kind of tinkle back in, and Penny comes in with my favorite story, which is how Levengood is like so conceited, all about the money, all about the fame, oh, whatever. So she comes back in after you think the movie's over, the credits have run, copyright Patty Greer, and then all of a sudden, little piano, and she goes, Levengood ate spaghetti every day of his life for 50 years. One meal a day. Spaghetti that he made himself with some tomato sauce. He made it once every 10 days and ate it for 10 days and then made it again. Oh. And I said to him, how are you going to survive and be healthy if this is all you eat? And he said, I told them when I got here, make it easy. I'm not here for the food. Let me do my work. And that's how the movie ends.
That is such a great story. That is such a great ending. You know, this is wonderful. I can't wait to see it. I do have 1.5 follow-up questions, if that's okay.
1.5.
Yeah, well, one with a follow-up question with a follow-up on that one. And the follow-up question is the standard one, but I want to hear the new and improved answer, which is why are most crop circles in the UK and in this special kind of, you know, leyline configuration in the UK itself?
Remember I told you about the largest salt aquifer in the world is under southern England.
I see.
So if all crop circles, almost all that we've documented, are sitting over an aquifer of water, well, there's a nice pool. And if they're all sitting on a ley line, 96 or 7% of them last time I checked, then you're in the richest area of sacred sites of anywhere on the planet. Plus, you've got the 3 underground streams meeting in an ancient stone circle where the Druids have walked across Europe for 6,000 or 7,000 years. So the frequency is very high. The mother is very comfortable there. The people don't wash their cars or clean the spider webs out of their house. They're out there working on their garden. They're working on their magic.
Okay.
They're not like...
Yeah. Can we have the crop circles do something about the queen? I mean, is that... No, that's a joke. Okay.
Don't even start me on that thing. You know, it's funny, though, when I think of her, and I just, that just made my mind go to an extreme. There were some crop circles that when I initially looked at them, I thought, oh, wah, 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 humans. Like the alien smoking the pipe. Remember that one?
Possibly.
There's an alien smoking a pipe and the smoke coming up. And then there's another one of a marijuana leaf, just the leaf.
Right.
And I remember thinking, a bunch of hippie kids. On the other hand, look what we're learning about the medicine. Look what we're learning about big pharma.
Of course. Of course.
And so marijuana, the medicine, cannabis, is a very important piece. And in the women of today, it's really funny. One of the women I interviewed wrote a cannabis cookbook.
That is so wonderful.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's called the Kitchen Cannabis Cookbook.
It's called the Kitchen
Cannabis Cookbook.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And she brought in all these different chefs, and her boyfriend had these fabulous plants growing in his yard. So, of course, we're filming the plants. As she's talking, the B-roll goes right down that line of gorgeous plants in the sunshine. But the funniest thing at the end, she says that the cannabis plant is a female. And we know this because we have to pull the males, because all they do is spray the females all the time. And then she goes off into this rage of laughter. But it is kind of funny when we realize again that it is time for women to be brought back into the arena of being able to help the world awaken. And I do believe that it is going to be women that are going to have to be the leaders of the new paradigm until we bring balance back. And the balance is so off kilter now because we've got all these angry male leaders. And when we look at I can't say who, what is running for president today in America? I mean, when I started going to England 8 years ago, they were saying, don't admit you're American, pretend you're Canadian. And I'm like, no. I'm American and I didn't vote for any of them. Hi, nice to meet you. I don't know why, but they were ashamed of us 8 years ago. Now is a real pity party. It's just kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, I say, here comes filmmaker representing Mother Earth, Patty Greer. That's who I see. Her own Patty Greer, I must add. Her own Greer. Here comes her own Greer.
Well, thank you for inviting your audience into Patty Land, because I think that I do show a different frequency of crop circles than Freddie or Gazeki or the guys that do a lot of analytical and all that, but none of them, for some reason, were privy to Levengood's real research. Yeah. None of them even heard about Penny.
Now, I have a follow-up. I have a follow-up question, and it's this: if taking Levengood's research and taking the implications of it, that is, with regard to the 30% more food, 70% more nutrition from seeds grown in crop circles. So therefore, the logic from a public policy point of view is that you want to understand you know, if you're looking at agriculture on the planet and feeding the planet, you want to understand how to bring this crop circle technology around the world so that everybody, I mean, you're in Africa and, hey, I'm going to crop circle my farm or my crops, and you're in Peru and I'm going to crop circle my crops, and you're in China. China needs a lot of crop circle crops, you know, because that soil has been depleted for many thousands of, many generations. Yeah, thousands of generations. That's accurate. The 28 generations is only 20 years. And, you know, every continent, North America, Canada's got very sparse crop circles. We have a few up here in Alberta, etc.
You know, you'd be surprised how many crop circles you have in Canada.
Really?
And yesterday I was really surprised when I looked at how many we had in America. Between 2000 and 2006, we had an average of 40 a year in America that we didn't hear about.
How many?
40. In 2006, I think it was. Yeah, I was absolutely shocked at how many American crop circles we've had, and they just don't talk about it. But look at our news. It's the same as the agriculture people. So I think that, you know, it's clearly been a very intentional hiding of his research because it's too good for humanity. So as you asked about the ascension and the evolution, it's one of those pieces that needs to come out with the free energy, is to bring back the food supply. And as soon as we bring down this poisoning problem, we're going to need to bring the food supply back. And as soon as we stop this GMO issue, we're going to have a lot of work to do. This technology is massively important when this happens. And I did read, because I questioned Penny, when I was in the lab, and the girl that inherited the lab and the property really is not into the research, which is a drag. But we had a guy archive every single paper. So 40 or 50,000 papers are photographed and archived, which is really good. And so I filmed him really quickly. She didn't want me in there with my big camera. So I was like, zoom, 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 zoom all over the place, under the tables. I mean, he had some weird stuff in the lab. So I sent Penny all these photos of these weird machines. And she's like, where did you see that? You know, I mean, I was like.
Well, now, what facility are you talking about right now?
The lab where he used to work.
I see.
His lab.
Yeah, so my question is that people watch your film, people start waking up, boom, 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 the lights go off in their heads. They said, okay, we want to become involved. We want access to the research. Where is the research and how do they access it?
Well, Penny and I and Stan are going to bring this product to market, and we are definitely looking for backers. So that would be great. Penny has very.
You mean you're going to bring you're talking about the film or the research or the whole thing?
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
The film is the introduction. The film is the appetizer.
Oh, so now we're finally getting to the real story. An hour and a half into it.
Well, I don't know if there's any story past it, because people, for some reason, want to fund men who are famous.
Look.
What I'm
I've heard
saying to
it
you,
on good authority that the next Secretary General of the United Nations is going to be a woman, and that there's a change of the guard. There's a changing of the guard, and it's going over to women now. They may, the situation in the U.S. So that what I'm saying is that change your thought. Is that go for it.
I'm open and I'm ready.
Manifest as the woman spokesperson for the Levengood research manifestation around the world. Okay, and you're speaking right now on behalf of Mother Earth, Levengood, Penny, everybody involved in this. If people want to, they're going to see your film. There's, people are going to watch. You're going to reach out. You're going to get the funding for the film. But beyond the film, what is there? Like, is there a body of research? Is there a body of technology, free energy devices that you can go to the earth and create your own crop circles for your own farm, for your own community?
It's not about creating. It's not about creating crop circles. It's not about creating crop circles with these machines.
Oh, okay. Walk us through it then.
Yeah, no, a crop circle is, you got to work with the mother and them and a whole bunch of people, meditating. But you're also working with massive amounts of electromagnetic energy. It's not something that one person can say, I'm going, But on the other hand, my manifestation was the very next morning, and it was so blatant that I was just devastated with, oh my God, I have to hold my head again. It's blowing my mind that you can actually go this deep with the circle makers, and the next day they deliver a response. But again, that's what the message was that we sent out into space. We sent this binary code out, and it came back in a crop circle with 9 specific changes, but it was definitely the same message response. So we're definitely getting a lot of communication. We've got biophysical evidence, so we know these crop circles can't be made by humans when they've got the blown nodes. Not only did these frequencies boil the water inside the plant, but at the lab they also had these leaves of wheat or corn that had these very stiff red stuff on them, and he peeled this red material off, and then he peeled it off the bottom, and it showed all of the imprint of the leaf. So whatever it was, it had to have hit the leaf when it was wet and then solidified to the leaf. So they experimented, and they found that it was iron ore. Iron ore has to be 1200 degrees to be molten. To land on a plant and not burn the field at 1200 degrees and mold to the leaf, something's going on that is not human. So with this many biophysical bits of evidence, and they found things at UFO landing sites. She was talking about these leaves that had square peg holes all through them, hundreds of them, perfect squares. You can't fake these things. A whole plant full of leaves with square holes all in every leaf. I mean, it just goes on and on when we finally open up and say, I want to hear all this. So in the movie, when I say, I sat there every morning for 3 weeks holding my head as she blew my mind. I mean, the science, which I'm telling you, you really have to change your perspective to realize they're not coming out of the sky. Crop circles are coming out of the earth.
Yeah, so the basic message that you're bringing us through your film and your work is the message that Mother Earth is bringing us, which is listen, and listen to Mother Earth. That's beautiful.
It's also listen to yourself.
Listen to yourself.
It's also listen to the higher dimensions. I mean, it's such a complex co-communication, but it's really so simple. And sometimes it is just the mother. But, here we forget that she is a living entity. My God, how could we forget? And when we look at, not only are we having to have people in power that are voting on, should we label poisoning their food or not? No, let's not. What happened? Like, I'm surprised the mother hasn't just done a good shimmy until all of those fall off. Like, just, flick.
Well, isn't that what the process of dimensional ascension, I call it dimensional ascension, a dimensional fractal ascension within. Dimensional fractal ascension within. Because the theory is that it's all inside. And so the poisoners don't have the 4 or 5D inside because they gave all of that up. And so as Mother Gaia or Mother Earth now may be coming up, you know, and speaking more loudly and saying, hey, here, look at this, then it's those that have those fractal densities inside that can listen, And those that are in the third density, some of the lore, this isn't science, it's kind of, you know, the dimensional ecology of the omniverse, but it's, you know, oh, well, they go off to other third density planets because they still have more lessons to learn. So, I mean,
I think we're going to.
I'm sorry?
I don't think we're going to lose this planet. I think we're going
to. No. We aren't. Mother Gaia already drew the line in the sand, and that happened December 21st, 2012, and or 2025 if you're in the Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga. You know, it's all. See, this is like it's a big clockwork. So anybody thinks that they can get away from that by, you know, I'm not even going to mention those names because just mentioning that name brings the frequency down. It's all designed that way. It's Gaia. So I think that you are doing such a service by putting out a signal which will go broadly to people who, you know, it's the old thing, for those who have ears to hear, eyes to see. And because I believe that ascension is really about ascension to a fractal density within. And anyway, which is what your experience of the crop circles was, really fractal, because you were experience the earth within. I mean, I'm kind of like trying to understand what you were communicating about your healing experiences at the very beginning. Does that make sense? Or?
It does. But I don't think of it as that healing for myself because they didn't heal my hands. What they did was they distracted the heck out of my life. And as soon as I realized crop circles were real and the first one I walked in, I didn't even think about my hands or my past or all that stuff anymore. I was just like, oh my God.
You went there to heal your hands, and however, they jumped you into your righteous path. I mean, Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Now, I have been wearing so much Moldavite for the last bunch of years that I probably deserved this. You know, you're asking for it when you wear huge amounts of Moldavite, which is the highest vibrating stone on earth. And behind me, I think you can see that's my crystal case. Every time I move, it's clothing and crystals. You know, everybody's got their stuff. Mine is clothing and crystals. But I was really into the Moldavite. Lovely. And, I mean, people would walk up to me, and I have a necklace so big that sometimes people come up and they step back, and they're like, nice, it's the necklace. Oh, God, I wasn't sure what that was. It's like, it's not my field. But I think that there's certain tricks that we can do, like working with crystals, like wearing high vibrating stones that are going to attract those frequencies to us. But I think another really big thing, other than learning to listen, is learning to say, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Rather than going outside like, eek, I'm so scared. Because then they're not going to show. And I have a friend in England that does these really advanced night watch events in the Avery Stone Circle. And she makes people sign a waiver saying, I swear I'm not scared. Because when the balls of light appear, if you've got one wimp in your group, they're going to sense it and go back. So no wimps. And night watch, I mean, it's just hardcore. The stuff that I experienced over there is why I had to make my last movie. And again, it's like, I don't think they're going to take me out, but if they do, this is a lot of the heavy stories of the strange.
I'm sure that Mother Earth has you in the new fractal reality. You know, uh, I want to make sure to ask you this, and that is, when can people start seeing the new movie? Because here we are. This is May 3rd, Friday the 13th. Oh, that's a lucky day.
It is.
And
I'm hoping
I know that this is going to be premiering. And so when can people actually, they would, go on pattygreer.net? Is that or there are other places, or what? pattygreer.net? Yeah.
pattygreer.net will be definitely the start.
Yeah.
And
when will it be available?
within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so probably toward the end of May.
Yeah.
Yeah, two weeks from today. Yeah, that'll be May 24th.
Well, I'm not putting a date on it because it's not done yet. But
I just said that because it's my birthday. That's all.
Mine's May 18th. Happy birthday!
Oh wow, we're fellow Geminis. Oh my God.
I'm Taurus.
Oh,
I'm Taurus.
Am I that close to the cusp?
Yeah, we're at that split.
Oh, good. See, I'm not I'm an astrological illiterate. I'm not. Yeah. Yeah. So, great.
Right now, there's 7 movies on the website.
Yeah.
They're all absolutely interesting.
They are. This is, and you've brought us into a really fascinating reality and world. Is there something that you haven't brought up in the interview that you would like to share for our viewers?
Well, only because you encouraged me in the new paradigm, seeing myself as incredibly successful and the film's getting out, it does help to have financing. And it is the only way I have made these films. Some freak person from Canada, a wonderful man, showed up and helped me to make Women of Today and Crop Circle Diaries. I have made 2 movies this year. I'm a friggin' animal. But it costs money to pay the editors. And so for me, this has been a very difficult thing because I chose distributors who have intentionally not paid me for 8 years. It's been unbelievable what I spent on lawyers to try and get the stuff off the bottom of my shoe, the distributors, and they're just these vulture things. And basically they knew that I found the communication between the balls of light. Their job was to get my work off the market. So my first 4 movies have been hidden for 8 years. And even though I have no tax reports for either of them or income, I just found them on Walmart yesterday and eBay, my early movies. So
Wait a minute. That's called piracy.
I have no idea.
That's called theft of intellectual property. You have been targeted with theft of intellectual property. That has happened to several of the interviewees that we've interviewed. That is just amazing. That's theft. Anyway, that's theft of intellectual property and
copyright infringement. Yeah,
sorry?
It's intentional. It's copyright infringement and it's intentional.
Yeah.
And it's just these icky guys that don't want me to succeed. So it's been an interesting thing where I really just focus on the greatness of contact.
Yeah.
And the greatness of this beautiful interaction that I get to have, and the love letters from people around the world. Thank you for your films. But to do it like a breatharian financially takes a little bit of the color out. So for me, the only thing I can say beyond the love that I have for the work and the contact is that if people would make some donations on my website, it would be awesome.
Great.
I put all the movies together in collections for half price. So you can get all 11 items, which is 7 movies, 4 soundtracks for $100.
Oh,
so
great.
Yeah, so I've got like group things, but to get people to get the information out is the biggest piece. And I would like to be living the life I used to 8 movies ago, but there's something in me that is so passionate about helping with the ascension that even though I've got these maggot distributors and whatever. It's like there's something so much more important about being in your truth, helping to bring it. And as long as we stay in this open place of really loving the planet back, the gifts are coming in. Like the original Oliver's Castle footage, the Billy Meyer photos. I mean, they're just people handing it to me because they know I'm willing and fearless.
Right. And so if people go there, and those people that want to contact you, do they do it through your website? Is that okay? Great.
Contact us. Yep.
This has been for me, I mean, and for all of us here that are watching this, I'm sure, I know that you're bringing a game-changing film. You're bringing a film that'll bring us all into, into the experience that you have been through, that Levengood and Penny have been through, that, Mother Earth has been sharing, because, I mean, it's just transformational. I'm really looking forward to watching it, and that'll be my birthday treat to myself. A few days after my birthday, no problem.
I'll try not to make you wait too long. No, I'm on deadline because I gotta, get them 100 of them made so they can get shipped out to Contact in the Desert for my big world premiere.
Oh, great! Great. So you'll be doing the world premiere at Contact in the Desert. Wonderful.
June 4th. I'm speaking. I'm doing a workshop on orbs and plasma.
Great.
And when I do my workshops on orbs and plasma, I take people outside, and within 3 minutes, everybody can see orbs and plasma in the sky moving. Everybody. It's mind-boggling.
My honorable title for you is The Other Greer. And we won't go into that more deeply.
Nope.
But just say that, wow, I'm sure glad to meet you. And I'm sure glad that you're here on Earth.
Thank you. I'm glad you're on Earth. And I mean, it's really, I'm kind of embarrassed. I thought for some reason you were like an Alex Jones, tough guy. Your name, you've been in the conspiracy world so long. And this morning, my little guide said, you need to pull up one of his shows. So I paused the edit and I popped up Alfred, and I was looking at one of your videos, and I'm like, this seems really nice,
Yeah.
But you're holding, you got crystals. You're totally resonating with all this, girl wisdom. And so I'm thinking, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go, it's so nice. I don't know why you were going to be like, somebody else.
No. I got my start when I left government in 1973 in parasite college.
What did you do for the government?
And I had my first interdimensional experience in February 1973.
No wonder you're so dedicated.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like before that time, after that time.
Well, everyone who's anyone, and if you could just get my name out there and get people to invite
you. We're going to, this will be out there, and Gaia, Mother Gaia, now's your chance to back one of your great champions, Patty Greer.
Thank you. Well, she's definitely sending the girls to the surface to do this work.
Great.
Very nice to meet you. And
absolutely.
Send me a link to the show, and I'll share it with my clan also.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, and go to pattygreer.net.
Excellent.